Um, and I think this will tee nicely into the broadcast. So we'll go to the broadcast after this. Um, it was not explained well to me. I understood that uh, I understood that both teams were getting the ball, and whoever got the ball second, which in this case was the Chiefs, would have a chance to fully answer. I did not understand or know until honestly until right before the final play of the game that why the Chiefs were taking their time because nobody explained what the timing situation was, and that was an absolute miss. Um, and I think that was like going into the broadcast. What the hell is Gene Steratore there for? Like even Jim Nantz was like, "Well, Gene, you want to take a shot at explaining these?" And it seemed like he didn't know. It was weird.
Yeah, I mean, even college football, right? Anymore, when it goes into overtime, they're going to stick that graphic on the screen and explain what's going on. Didn't happen. And I didn't know. Well, when I had an inkling of it was when Tony Romo said it, and I wouldn't trust Tony Romo with anything he said about anything in the world, right? So when he's saying, "Oh, this is like the first quarter," I'm like, "What is he drinking now?" Like, and why aren't they in a hurry? Because the clock's running out. Like I thought they had two possessions, and when time ended at the end of the overtime period, it was over. I did not know the rule, and they did not serve viewers in that way, which on one hand doesn't surprise me, and on the other hand is just well disappointing. So I guess it's the same heavy hand of not serving us.
Maybe the maybe I maybe this is the catalyst for changing the rule collectively, like the regular season rule, getting rid of ties and changing it this way collectively, because I think that would have it had we had that like transparency. I think that would have been a little more clear going into the season. Then we had a couple of season games where we were like, okay, this is how this works. But it works apparently differently in the playoffs. And obviously like it has to go on until somebody wins the game, particularly in the playoffs. But I I don't know. Yeah, the that felt like I don't care how casual of your audience is, or if you and I are sitting here talking about it, good Lord, I have to imagine a lot of people that aren't necessarily plugged into football the same way we are were hella confused.
Yeah, yes, I think serve viewers, and I just think, and it felt like in the broadcast, the disconnect was internal some ways. I thought CBS's production, whether you're seeing the officials on the sideline, whether you're seeing the guy who injured his Achilles getting ready to run out on the field, they had great graphics. I mean, I don't know about design, but
Mm,
well timed. It's been this many
mm-mm.
times since, and they were at the right time. And in some cases, the broadcasters made reference to them. In other cases, they left them just sit on the screen. And I appreciate you don't have to beat people over the head with that, but there were some good numbers. So I feel like they were prepared production wise, and the folks delivering the information missed a little bit. I think one of the biggest misses early, especially with the Achilles injury and the speed with which the 49ers were playing, was let's talk about the turf. The story the whole week leading up to the game was the 49ers practice field, and it was soft. Didn't get mentioned at all during the game. Oh, are they running faster because now this is a harder surface and they feel better? Oh, did the guy pull his Achilles? I just thought that was a miss in terms of obvious stuff. I don't think it was an awful broadcast, but I think at the Super Bowl with the production, the talent, the resources, the spotters, it's perfect's hard to expect in a live broadcast, but they weren't close to that either.
No. Mm-mm. What letter grade would you give it? I'm at a solid B minus.
Yeah, I would be generous with the B, but I'm comfortable with the B minus. Like I just
Yeah.
because there was that mix of, there's that mix of who you're serving, right? It's not a regular football viewer because those
R-
games get 50 million people. This gets 120. So who are you serving? How are you doing that? And I know it's a change in approach, but all season it's coming when you have the game. We're going to have the Super Bowl this year. What are we going to do a little differently? Um,
Well,
it's just
yeah. No, that's a good way to I agree with that because I want to go back to what you said about the graphics. So the graphics themselves, yes, they were good. Like the information that I was getting was good. There was one particular, I think it was fourth quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, Travis Kelce had a couple big catches on a drive, and they showed the first half, which he had 1 yard, and then it was like 56 yards in the second half, and it was just a very striking number to me that I was like, okay, that's impressive, and that's serving the viewer. Um, but where I felt like, well, before we digress a little bit, we must talk about the new score bug. It's like it's bad. Like it looks like the team names or the team initials look like the fonts didn't properly render, and it just looked lazy and sloppy. And I can't believe somebody that makes $200,000 a year probably signed off on that.
Um, I agree. But I don't know the industry in terms of what they're trying to do and saying, let's make more room on the screen and keep it simple. And it's got to be on the big TVs as well as these devices, right? And what the other things they're trying to do to try to make sure it renders correctly in all the places they want it to render. And you're more of a score bug snob than I am. So I probably can't quite get there, but I don't disagree.
It felt like a step back for CBS, and they had the most average. Everything about CBS is so average. I think is no offense to anybody that works at CBS, but it feels very average. So I wanted to harp on that real quickly. But then I think the main attraction of the night in terms of broadcast, I want to the main play that I think I want to talk about that encapsulates everything is the final play of the game. It's Tony Romo talking through the time situation and just kind of spewing on and not knowing when to shut up and let Jim Nance take over. And then Jim has a great call, and I went back and actually listened to it, and he had a great little Vegas tie-in with Jackpot, and I thought that was great. And then Tony Romo just kind of starts talking, and like the team just like it was bizarre. He just was disconnected. And yet, going back to your production point, the the sequence of play and then the crowd reaction, particularly with Ross Travis slash Taylor Swift, it was perfect because that was what that whole moment was about. Because that even if that is Taylor Swift and that is Blake Lively and all these other celebrities celebrating, that is how every Kansas City Chiefs fan was feeling in that moment. And I thought that was a great like bang bang shot to get us kind of through that. But it was the guides to the story. Jim Nance was there, and I felt like Tony Romo, not as bad as he has been, but not as good as he can be. And maybe I don't know how good he can be.
I was gonna say, I don't think as good as someone in that role should be. I think he
Yes.
might be as good as he can be. I think he slowed down in the first half a little bit and didn't ramble as much. Um, but then, I mean, even the 49ers driving overtime, he said something about, well, the thing you can't do this time of the game is be running the ball. Like that's just, a ball. And then they ran the ball and 2 plays later, he's like, oh, it's a great job for them running the ball. I'm like, dude, make up your mind. And that I don't feel more informed or smarter as a viewer having watched a game that Tony Romo worked. And I think that's the overall summary of it. I don't doubt that. Well, I don't doubt that. I guess that he knows what he's talking about, but because he can't turn himself off, right? Your face is right. Because he can't turn himself off, and because he doesn't explain it clearly sometimes, I'm not sure he knows what he's talking about, right? Maybe he's just the Dallas quarterback who was in lots of production meetings through the years, is handsome, got a gig, had a good first year when he was hot predicting plays, and now that trick has run its course, and he's just okay. So I don't know. I think you're right. I think the storytellers that framed what we were seeing were not as strong as the pictures we were getting.
Well, and I think particularly with Romo is and I think about this in the context of Kevin Burkhardt, and I think about this in the context of Tom Brady maybe taking over I'm sorry, not Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olson. Um, is the Greg Olson's ability to slow down the game for me and make me whether I watched 1,000 football games or 5 football games in my lifetime, or this is my first, he can make me understand why that happened. Tony Romo did not do that, has not done that, has just started saying, "This is the game, this is the game." How many times did we hear this is the Super Bowl? Like at some point when you say that, it loses its value. And I think it almost cheapens the, and I think that's why the final call and the touchdown to win the game felt meh, because it just the with Tony Romo kind of talking through the time thing, and then boom, Jim Nance making the call, and then Tony Romo just kind of uh, making noise. It was rough.
They kind of remind me of the old guy and the little kid from the movie Up, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's what it kind of, that's kind of, if they worked a game together, that's kind of what I envision them sounding like.
It's and So the other thing that happened, and I feel like we're harping on Tony Romo, but I think I don't know. It's the Super Bowl. This is important. They're spending a lot of money for Tony Romo, more than some teams are paying their quarterback. Um, and I think even more than Brock Purdy was making last
It's
night.
true.
Um, the thing that I was thinking about was Jim Nance, they come back from commercial at the end of the regulation. They come back and they show the shot of them in the booth. And Jim Nance is getting like doing his good theatrics, setting up the moment, building. And then Tony Romo is like makes a joke about like, "Are you sure about that, Jim?" or something like that. Like, and it just cheapened the experience. And I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it. And again, going back then to the other key guide in the situation, Gene Steratore. Why didn't they stop the clock on that Kyle Juszczyk play? Give me that immediately. He's there. It's not like he's not there. It was, and then
That may
of
be the
course
one
the
production
time.
thing. That may be
Yeah,
the one production thing. He's there. It's not like you got to go back to New York and find him. He's there, and it
yeah,
should be sooner with some stuff in those instances. I think too. Not that your analyst shouldn't know the things, but if you're good, and if you call your analyst in, then he gets the final say, and Tony doesn't need to come in and add on to it.
yeah,
He's the rules guy. Yep. Yeah, I agree, Gene. No, you don't need to. He's our guy. He's done it. He's talked for us.
yeah.
So
Be more definitive about bringing him in. Because I do think Gene is probably. I kind of like Dean Blandino a little bit more, because Dean Blandino is very like cut and dry. Here's what happened. Here's what I saw. Here's the what the rule book tells us in that situation. Gene is like kind of putting his own little, well, we got to look at this and that, and eh. But I don't think he does a bad job. But just let him be the authority figure. That is why you pay him.
right. I agree.